Prove to me where the Quran calls for oppression and I will publicly denounce it. Yeah, sure, I can do that. And them wherever you overtake them, so chase them down and unalive them, and expel them from wherever they have expelled you. Okay, so they were there first. Muhammad imposes his religion and they expel him, rejecting what he is imposing. So they were the indigenous. The Meccans were indigenous to Mecca, the Qurayshi tribe specifically, from which Muhammad came. So Muhammad also was indigenous to his own land, but he's bringing in an opposing view to the currently held religious structure of the Arabs at that time. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Monotheism is better than paganism, but he was bringing in an invasion. He was invading their religion and their philosophy with a new form of religion. And so the Meccans rejected him and they expelled Muslims. They began to defend themselves basically against the aggression of this new religion. Now at this point it's not violent. He's preaching, trying to win converts. He justifies it as being defensive, and that's what Muslims do. They'll look at this and say, no, Muhammad was not being oppressive, he was defending himself. Well, no, he was the original aggressor, whether he's right or not. Let's say Islam is true and the paganism, which is not true, he was right to preach monotheism. Let's say he was right in his message. It doesn't justify the validity of saying that this was a defensive tactic to expel them and unalive them wherever you overtake them. It was using the means of violence and oppression to expel those who rejected and were defending their way of life. Okay, and so most Muslims today, they accept because the internet exposes everything, and so you can only lie about your own historic narrative for so long. And so most Muslims like Muhammad Hijab, Ali Dawah, these guys are openly accepting that, yeah, Islam spread by violence. So what? That's in our Sunnah. That's the way Muhammad did it. That's the way we're supposed to do it. We need to use military, political, and violent tactics to spread the message. That's part of the way we're called to do it. And so, Muhammad said, don't fight them at the sacred mosque unless they fight you there. Well, the sacred mosque did not belong to Muhammad originally. It was who? The Qurayshi tribe was in charge of it. They were in charge of that whole region, and Muhammad came along and claimed it as his own and took over. He was the invader. He was the aggressor. Now, he was indigenous. He wasn't like an outsider coming in, but what he was an insider who was bringing in a new ideology and attacking the old way of life. So he was invading, okay? Christianity did a similar thing with Judaism and eventually conquered the Roman Empire and took the message to the nations, but it wasn't through violence. Jesus did not justify oppression to impose the message of Christianity. He justified martyrdom. He said, you give your life as a witness, as a martyr, for the testimony of truth, of who God is and the revelation of Jesus Christ. And it spread. Christianity spread in the early centuries by this means of giving one's life for the testimony, not through any sort of violent oppression. Now later, as the church became more politicized as an institution, they began to use the civil state as a proxy for carrying out their policies, the church's policies, through violent means by, unaliving heretics and sending out soldiers to fight in territorial battles. None of that was Christ. Christ didn't sanction any of that. None of that is Christian. That's not Christian. That was politics incorporating Christian ideology into its policy and then making a mess of things. And so Europe was in a mess when Christianity was trying to, when the church as an institution was trying to, become some sort of political entity using civil state as a proxy to exercise the carrying out of its laws. So, but Islam started that right off the bat. Islam's like, no, we're going to be clear about who we are. We are, we are not just a religion. We are a political system that has the right to not only defend itself militarily, but we also have the right to expand through military expansion. And that's fine. That's Alexander the Great did the same thing. Attila the Hun. It's the story of history, but it's not the story of Christianity in reality. So accept it for what it is. And Muslim Cowboy, you got to own the fact that by nature, oppression is allowed in order to expand the religion of Islam. That's just a fact. So what are you asking people to prove what is fact? You want to denounce it? No. Own it. Either denounce it because you misunderstand what your own religion is about, or just own up to it. Please, own up to it.